Good evening, Oklahoma. It's been a busy Saturday night. We're following breaking and developing news. There was a shooting tonight at the Oklahoma State Fair. One person is in critical condition. They are currently at the hospital, and one suspect is in custody. Police tell us this was a fight between young men there at the State Fair. Again, one person is in custody there and one person is in critical condition. But it was a very emotional and chaotic night there at the Oklahoma State Fairgrounds. It is empty now. Everyone was asked to leave, but there was a point when everyone was asked to shelter in place inside the Bennett Event Center. We had multiple members of our team there on the ground that just described a chaotic and emotional scene. But again, everyone is safe. That suspect is in custody. We are awaiting a press conference right now with further details from Oklahoma City Police. As you can see, it doesn't look like they've stepped up to the podium yet, but as soon as they do, we will be ready. You can see it looks like it should be any minute right now. I don't know if we still have any crews. I don't know if we still have Sky 5 up and at 'em at this point. Okay, great. Could we send it on up to Sky 5 pilot Chase Rutledge? Chase, what's the latest?
Yeah, Shelby, you're taking a look at where we believe the shooting happened, and this is where they're going to have the press conference. You can see everybody set up there to the left, and we're anxiously waiting on that press conference. Parking lots are getting more empty now, so that's good news as everyone continues to make their way out of the parking lot. They were all told to leave just a little bit after 9 o'clock, and now they're still trying to get in. They're still trying to leave, so there's still quite a few, I would say 200 or 300 cars still left to get out of the parking lot. But as we wait on this press conference, very scary scene here tonight at the State Fair as we'll find out that there was a shooter, one person shot, but the shooter in custody, so that is good news. But I'm sure law enforcement is still trying to unpack what happened here and investigate, and once they get more information, they'll let us know. Shelby.
Okay, Chase, thanks so much. I believe that they are ready for that. Let's go to Captain Valerie Littlejohn.
Is everyone good?
Yep. Yes, ma'am.
Good. All right. It was just before 9 o'clock p.m. here at the State Fair. There was a altercation that occurred in the Bennett Event Center between two groups of people. During that altercation, one person pulled out a gun or produced a gun and fired a shot at another person. At the time, there's one shooting victim that was transported to a local hospital in critical condition. There were a few other people that were reported with injuries, probably due to the chaos and the crowd leaving the fair as quickly as possible. We did get two people into custody right now that we're trying to determine their involvement. It is believed one of those is the shooter and is the suspect in this incident. Again, it's very early on in the investigation, and we're still trying to determine exactly what happened. Again, there was one shooting victim and we have two people in custody, so we're trying to determine exactly what occurred. We're looking through video, we're searching the area for any evidence, and we'll have our detectives come out and start processing and talking to witnesses, and our crime scene unit come out and processing the scene.
You have teams here on the ground at the State Fair the whole time it's happening. Can you talk about what their response looked like?
Yes, obviously whenever the incident occurred, that went out over the radios, and the officers that were in the area, the officers immediately came to the area and started looking for the suspect and making sure that they were rendering aid to whatever victims that they did locate, and started getting people to safety and clearing the area to make sure it was safe.
And did it happen within the actual center itself? And if so, was it in like a corridor, a hallway, or a tucked away area separate from the crowd of people, or was it in the main area where everyone else was?
It happened inside the Bennett Event Center. I believe it happened on one end of it. There was another incident with another person that had fired off some rounds into the air, and we immediately began trying to get all those people involved in custody, get witnesses, and everyone detained as quickly as possible to figure out what was going on so we can identify who the suspects were.
So the other shots being fired in the air, was that a separate incident? Can you explain that a little more?
It looks like it was all involved somehow in this altercation between these groups of people, that after the initial shooting, everyone started running, and there was another person that had fired a gun off in the air there.
Do you believe it's the same shooter or not sure?
We don't know yet. Again, we're searching through all the videos, talking to all the witnesses to try to determine how many shooters there were and who all was involved in this incident.
Can you talk about the systems you guys have in place, or that the State Fair has in place to keep guns out of here?
Yeah, so the State Fair has a policy where you cannot carry guns inside. They have the detectors and the security there at the gates to double check to make sure that people aren't bringing guns inside. And obviously, if you do, you're not allowed in with it.
Has the weapon been recovered?
Yes, one of the people we detained did have a firearm on them. That was recovered. Again, it's early on in the investigation to determine if that was the firearm that was used in the shooting.
And as far as the state fair, tomorrow is the last day. Do you have any indication of if things are reopened or if this is it for the year?
I don't know as far as if they're going to reopen tomorrow. I haven't talked to anyone from the state fair or anyone that is on that board or committee to determine if they're going to open tomorrow. That's something that you would have to ask them.
As far as, you know, those metal detectors you talked about, is there any indication as to someone slipping in, someone somehow getting past the metal detector still?
That we don't know. Again, we'll look at everything. We'll check cameras. We'll talk to witnesses, try to determine how that firearm did get into the fair.
I know Chief Corley said that there's actually an increased amount of officers here on the weekends. Is there any indication of exactly how many officers were here at the fair already when the incident happened?
I don't have the exact number of officers that were here tonight, but there was an increase in officers. Definitely on the weekends, Fridays and Saturday nights are very busy times, and that's usually when we have a lot of issues that occur within the fair just from the crowd of people and people coming in and out. So we did have more officers than what we normally have out here.
Multiple witnesses told us about different people getting separated from parents, families, stuff like that. Did you guys have to reunite people? Can you talk about that at all?
Yes, anytime anyone gets separated, we do have officers that work quickly to try to reunite families, children with their parents. We have our missing persons unit that works out here during the fair every day that the fair is open. That helps with the reunification if someone gets separated.
Were they activated for this?
They were out here.
And I know that the sheriff's office has its command center too, and that there's the safety offices and everything. So from a command standpoint and everything, I mean, it seems like everything happened pretty expeditiously, that the right people were already here to get people out safely, that there was a pretty quick response, would you say?
Yes, very quick response. We had several officers here, several of our different units here to respond. We had some of our tactical unit guys show up and clear the buildings just for extra measures to make sure everything was safe. So it was a very quick response and trying to get everyone to safety and get everyone cleared out of here as quickly as possible.
You guys were command. How much were the sheriff's office and OHP involved, if at all?
I'm sorry.
How much were the sheriff's office and OHP involved, if at all?
Everyone that works here at the fair, it's a team effort. So they're very involved with helping us. We try to work together to get everything
Were there
done.
troopers here?
I don't know as far as troopers. We do have the sheriff's office and we do have the fire department, IMSA, and everyone that work out here. And we always are trying to work together as a team to get everything done and everything working safely and cohesively.
And you mentioned there was a group that was fighting before the shooting began. Is there any indication of how big or small that group was? And are the other members of that group, are those people that you're looking for, that you've already questioned and you understand that the role that they played in that?
We're not sure how big the group was. It did look like several people. Again, we're going to investigate, try to get everyone involved identified that was a part of this incident, and our detectives will work very hard in getting that solved.
All right. Thank you. We appreciate
All right,
it.
you're welcome.
Okay, so that was an update from Oklahoma City Police on the shooting incident tonight at the Oklahoma State Fair. We know one person was hurt. They're currently in the hospital in critical condition. We actually just learned that 2 people are in custody currently. Oklahoma City Police believe one of them was the shooter, and then they do have one additional person in custody related to that incident. We also know that some people were injured just in the chaos. We heard that people were obviously running for their lives. People may have gotten pushed over or trampled or you know, kind of was a stampede going on there. So some people were hurt in that. And then also they're searching the area for evidence. They're going to be looking at video, talking to witnesses to really try to figure out what happened during this chaotic Saturday night at the Oklahoma State Fair. We do know they had metal detectors, so I'm sure in the coming days there'll be an investigation into what happened there as well. Stick with KOCO. We will be on top of this story tonight, later on tonight. Head to our website, obviously tomorrow, and in the coming days. A lot of questions still to come here, so our team will be on top of this for you. But for now, here at 10:51, we will say good night to you, Oklahoma.